Workation, la nueva manera de vivir. Conviértete en ciudadano de un mundo sin fronteras y haz comunidad. Invierte en lo que amas, en lo que te hace feliz. Invierte en ti. Free.
Hola. Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Bueno, estamos empezando el último día del Summit. Y bueno, pues estoy muy contento. Tenemos a nuestro English Spoken Group. Ahorita hacemos el cambio. Y bueno, vamos a platicar sobre como más allá del trade, innovate pathways and strategies for investing in digital assets, ¿no? Me gustaría, bueno, hacer como una presentación. Welcome. We are with Cathy, Keeyan, how's his last name is? Ravanshid? Yeah, he's from Perfect. All right. Paola Origel. Origel. Let's start to talking about your work, your small presentation. Cathy, if you or Paola, I think. Cathy, could you talk about your work?
Yeah.
Who are you, Cathy?
Yeah, happy to provide a little bit about my background. So I started in traditional finance, as are some of the other esteemed panelists on right before you today. Did some banking, consulting, and most recently I was working with Multicoin Capital, which is a large crypto asset management firm investing in specifically crypto assets across both hedge fund and venture fund strategies, helping them raise funds, helping to educate investors on the promise and potential, returns that they can make on crypto assets.
Keeyan.
I guess we're going right to left. So, Keeyan Ravanshid. I'm also in digital assets now. I'm currently actually working on a new kind of venture in the space, which is launching a multi-manager fund where we're going to tokenize as well a lot of the strategies and basically open up the possibility to retail investors to access like hedge funds, which was never possible before. So that's going to be cool if it happens. Of course, there's a lot of road ahead of us. Previously, I started a company with partners that was a infrastructure company in the digital asset space. So we provided trading infrastructure, which means basically software that funds and other kinds of asset managers can use to connect to all the venues where they place trades. And that is needed because in our industry, a lot of the trading is done systematically. So it's not, people are not individually deciding to click and place a trade. They're actually creating a program, a strategy to trade. So we use that software. And yeah, and you guys kind of heard about the rest of the background yesterday. So I'll give it to Paola. Paola, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Paola Origel. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Hyla Fund Management. We are a multi-manager, multi-strategy platform of digital asset funds. I started my career in technology, implementing, designing, creating e-learning platforms for big companies like Cemex, later on retail companies in the United States like Target, and I spent over 17 years in traditional finance working in different capacities, including multifamily offices. I was also a banker for HSBC, and I switched my career again to technology for high-frequency trading. And in 2017, I launched and co-founded Hyla Fund Management. Yes.
Interesting. Okay, pues let's start. How are digital assets redefining investment paradigms, Paola?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
how the new digital assets redefine the investment paradigm.
Yes. In many different ways, but I think,
I think we are in a revolution, a technological revolution
Yes.
that impact all the ways to make business related with other people, and I think particularly in the financial industry. This is last time we talked about the fintech, not fintech in Mexico is very common and very important. The fintech new regulations, and I think it's a in all the world, there are many changes, many important changes about the impact of the technology, particularly blockchain in the financial industry.
yes. I think it's going to impact every single industry, but I think that by default or design, the first industry that needs to be created is the infrastructure of finance. So we call it TradFi. TradFi means traditional finance, and now it's like decentralized finance,
Exactly.
which is DeFi. So in DeFi, I'm excited a lot about the changes in the infrastructure. So I'll give you a very punctual example. Like right now, the SWIFT system, to send a wire transfer internationally, usually it takes like 38 hours to 42 hours to settle, just to transfer. Like with crypto and blockchain, it takes like 7 to 10 minutes. It's like instant, right? So why is this important? It's not only important because I want to send money to you, Sergio or Cathy, or for financial transactions or micropayments. It's important at a larger scale. So for supply chain, for example, like I don't know how many of us, were aware of this, but I just discovered and I learned that when a cargo of food arrives to the airport, like the port, I'm sorry, it takes up to like sometimes 10 days for the payments to clear because of all the logistics and all the people involved. A lot of tons of food go to waste because of that. So it really matters. It's not only the financial infrastructure, it's how it affects and impacts other industries as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with everything Paola said, and on top of that, other than just payments and like supply chain kind of applications and all the things the blockchain is enabling us to do, it's also there's a political and like ideological impact on the world, which is that you are no longer having to trust intermediaries that are like subject to different rules based on where they are. And of course, as we know, all of these large centralized entities like banks, not all banks are bad or good or whatever, but ultimately all of them have over the years engineered ways to minimize their exposure to doing the right thing. Um, by registering in all kinds of different jurisdictions, by basically sometimes colluding with each other to keep fees high. And what this new paradigm is doing is putting the information in everyone's hands. And so any bad actors are accountable pretty much immediately. And developers and engineers now can just basically create alternatives quickly in the form of either new like layer one blockchains, which is basically like a internet protocol, just to translate for everyone, or by trying to basically change the code of an existing protocol because they can do that. But if they are enough engineers that push for it, most of these are open source. So I'm very happy about that.
Yes, sir. Cathy, we have a very interesting discussion about how this technology could supply or could finance the artistic or industry, no, the art industry, no, and in general there are two very different disciplines that in general are no good connection. The artists are in
The financiers.
is in the creative process only, no, and in general the economic terms and all the financial process is not. They in general they don't know very well how good finance, for example, in the in movies industry, no, in is it's very expensive, no, to create a movie or to create a court or something like that. And I think this technology could improve the crowdfunding the access of the funds, no?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I mean, at its core, it's blockchain technology, right? And I think it's almost limitless in terms of the types of industries it can revolutionize and impact and hopefully make better, more efficient, more accessible. That's kind of the dream and the hope underlying blockchain. So, like we talked about yesterday, the financing of art projects or films is just one of like a sliver of the pie of what blockchain technology can impact. It's kind of like saying, how will the internet change the world? It's limitless still, and it continues to affect us. How is this having a personal computer? How does having a phone in your hand all the time change how you do business, how you interact with the world and with each other? Similarly, with crypto, it is forming the ability for people to exchange goods, assets, services, ideas in a trustless, seamless, permissionless way. So if you think about how anything is done, it's since the beginning of time, you're looking for a way to say, hi, I have X, Y, and Z. You need X, Y, and Z. How do I get that over to you? In the olden days, it was bartering. Then we set up intermediaries with banks, microfinancing, whatnot. And now, with the possibility of technology, and the fact that everyone usually has a computer, has or a phone with some type of internet access, you can do that more seamlessly. And I don't need to know that Keeyan has X, Y, and Z because it's already written on the blockchain. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, in the next portion of the summit. But the possibilities really are limitless in terms of what can happen and what we will see change in a very quick way, which is also why you see a lot of resistance as well to crypto technology, because people have been doing things similarly for 50, hundreds of years, and they've been making a lot of money from it, right? And so if you come in with tech that disrupts that prevents people from, being the middleman, they're going to be resistant, but I think it's inevitable.
Okay. In your opinion, what is the principal difference between traditional finance and new digital assets or new financial industry?
Yeah, I mean, traditional finance, I've been in the industry, like Paola mentioned, things take a long time, and there's a lot of red tape and processes. So in the US, they might have one way of doing things. In Mexico, another. Different jurisdictions and regions and sovereigns have different rules and regulations. That's why you employ lawyers who understand the rules. That's why you employ, advisors to that country who can help you navigate the restrictions. They exist, for protectionism. They exist because someone always has their hand out because they want a piece of the transaction. And then also in terms of just in traditional finance, they just moved to a T+1 settlement period, right? That's been T+3, meaning when you make a transaction in finance, it takes 3 days to settle. That's in the grand scheme of things, you're like, oh, that's not that long, but that's a very long time. You're carrying a float for 3 days, and you don't know if you're going to get paid in those 3 days because your bank is talking to another bank to make sure that you have the money to send over. That's a very long time. They just moved to T+1. And like Paola said, within blockchain, you can do that in near instantaneous amount of time. Think about that. And for that settlement, the bank will charge you money, right, to help you trust and verify. That's why you're paying your credit card, right? The 3%. That's why vendors are paying credit cards 3%, because they don't know that they can trust you to pay for the goods. So they're utilizing Visa, MasterCard, whatnot, and PayPal. They're all getting on the crypto train because they know that this has the ability to impact their business. And what we're going to start seeing is traditional finance is getting smart about the potential monetary impact of crypto. They're going to start, and they have already started, incorporating crypto and blockchain tech in their own systems. They're just not telling you, right? They're just not showing you that they're doing that because they still want to charge you the money. They still want to be useful to you in the same way. But I think it's going to make things a lot more accessible to people. And traditional finance is getting smart to it, and they're saying we need to start catching up because we don't want to be left behind.
Another really exciting thing, about like blockchain technology, and I like to use this example, like what happened with Lehman Brothers in 2008. We knew it in the industry, right? It was lack of transparency. We knew they were broke, but they were not announcing it. If they have used blockchain, it's a open ledger where you can actually see the balance sheet of every single company, of every single bank, every single hedge fund. So there are no surprises because no one can change it. It's an immutable, transparent ledger. Like imagine like a spreadsheet of Excel. Every single transaction gets recorded, and you can't change it. Well, you can change it, but then you will see the change as well. So I think transparency is the best way, to describe blockchain in general. Like that can affect every single industry, like Cathy said. So I think it's very important. And another thing, because of that transparency and that access, we read in the news all the time about like crypto hacks and people complain like, oh, the technology doesn't work, because this amount of money was hacked, like $100 million to $100 million. The reason why we know it was hacked because it's on the blockchain. Like in traditional finance, these frauds happen every single day, but they don't get announced because they don't know what happened, who took the money, and where it went. But in blockchain and crypto, we know exactly when it happened and where it went. That's why in most cases, they recover, they hack money. Maybe it will take years, but they actually recover it. And in traditional finance, they can't recover it, and that's why they can't talk about it.
Okay, they connect with other important area that is the risk. No? Many people think that blockchain industry is a risky business, but I think exactly the opposite. How do you manage the risks in the alternative or new investments?
I think a key component is like understand your risk level or your risk profile, right? Every time someone asks me like, how can I invest? It's like, okay, there are many different ways to invest in industry. The first one and the most obvious is like at the retail level. And retail level means that you open a Coinbase account or a Pizza account, and then you buy your tokens. If you're gonna do that, that's very risky because it's a 24/7 market. It's not like traditional finance that it's just like 5 days a week, and the market closes at 4 or 5 p.m. You have to be on top of things 24/7. That's number one. Second one, you need to understand the tokens that you're buying, most of them, unless they're meme coins, but most of the tokens, they actually have an application attached to them. It could be access to something. It could be like voting rights. It could be there are some, specific tokens that give you the right as a developer to be part of the developer of the chain, for example. So my recommendation is that if you're going to participate as a retail investor, always read the white paper of the company that is behind that token. It's literally like reading the business plan of the company and the token. So that's number one. And the second option is to invest through an institutional investor like us. So instead of like you buying the tokens, all the time, just invest in a fund like ours. Because we put together a basket of products for you that gives you exposure not only to crypto tokens, but also to actually venture capital. So we invest in founders that actually building the infrastructure of the future in blockchain, and now the intersection with blockchain and AI. So I think that's a very important point, that can mitigate the risk of your investment.
Fund of funds crypto. The first time I hear this
Concept,
this
yeah.
concept.
So
Exactly.
a hedge fund of funds have existed, in finance. It's a fund of funds.
Fund of funds.
Yes. So what it really means is that we set up a fund structure, and through the fund structure, we invest in other fund managers. Why we do that? Because it gives you like a second layer of protection. Because we're not exposed only to one strategy and just one, sector or subsector of the industry. Why we decided to do that, and this is our legacy fund. Now we have more direct strategies, but in the past we started with a hedge fund of funds, and we call it the liquid venture fund. What it means is that we invest in other fund managers that are venture capital. So the venture capital funds invest in founders directly. We understood, yes, we understood that the technology was very volatile because it was very new. It's a new industry. So we knew that a lot of the applications that existed when we started in 2018, they're gone. already. And there are others that they are becoming very popular and very profitable. So with the hedge funds, you have that ability to switch and to be exposed to different sectors, subsectors, and different managers. I'll give you a very punctual example. In 2022, in the crypto space, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there were like many, like fraud incidents. And not even fraud, but just like, again, the blockchain technology is still evolving, so the regulation is not clear. So a lot of like companies went under. BlockFi went under, Celsius went under, and then in November of 2022, the fraud of FTX happened. The average exposure to FTX, just FTX, without Celsius and BlockFi, of a directed strategy was 16% up to 90%. No one should have exposure to 90% to anything. Like if you ask me as a fund manager, if someone has 90% exposure to anything, you're doing something wrong. The problem is that it's not that you were a bad manager. The problem is like in the industry, we all have some exposure because it was the only exchange available to trade and to place our money, right? So our fund to everything, BlockFi, Celsius, and FTX, we only have exposure of 4%, only 4%. So yes, it is a very expensive strategy because we have to pay the fees of the underlying managers, and you as investors have to pay us fees. So it's like fees on top of fees. There are 2 layers of fees. But our returns are like 400%. So you still make money. It's absurd, right? And for me, it's just if you're greedy and you want to expose again, you want to risk your capital to 90% of a loss. Like just think about it. If you lose 90% of your money, of your capital, in my perspective, it's better if you don't know the industry and if you don't know where to invest or how to start. A hedge fund of funds makes a lot of sense for me in this industry, personally.
Interesting. And let's talk about two regulatory mainstream. It's in general complicated. I think now in the United States there are very interesting discussion about what is the role of the government in the regulation. I think many people think, for example, that with Trump government, new government, it's more open, more easy. I don't believe exactly, but many people think it's necessary, obvious, good regulation. But what is in your opinion, in the horizon? What is the changes in the regulatory mainstream to operate in this industry, the crypto industry?
I'll pass it to Keeyan so someone else can
Yeah.
speak, but I will just say that under the Trump administration, we have the most crypto-friendly like government. And that's exciting for us. Why? Not because we want to make a lot of money, because we've been asking for a stable, structure, regulatory like frame so we can operate the funds, and investments so this industry can thrive with more transparency.
Yeah, I think that basically a couple things will happen. First of all, the U.S. has decided, or they say that the candidates to the different positions like Treasury, the Secretary of Commerce, etc., have said that they're going to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve in place. So they're going to buy something like 215,000 or something, 215,000 Bitcoin. Either they'll buy or they'll basically keep all the Bitcoins that they seize, through criminal proceedings, and basically that will be quite good for the price of all cryptos in terms of causing the price to go up, because there's only like 400, 500 natural Bitcoins mined per day. That's like at the current hash rate worldwide. So all of the rest of the Bitcoin has to be purchased from unnatural sellers, aka people who already have Bitcoin. And that means that there's a lot of buy pressure, so the price will go up. So it'll continue to grow as an asset class. I mean, currently, I don't know if you've seen, or you guys, you've seen Cathy as well, but it's basically there's a Bitcoin right now has exceeded many other asset classes in market cap. I think it's like 4.1 trillion, something like that. So it has actually exceeded like fine art as an asset class. which is actually one of the bigger ones, just below gold and US equities, etc. And the market cap of Bitcoin is bigger than Apple, Microsoft, and Nvidia combined, or Apple, Microsoft, Google. Anyway, those. So, yeah. So all of that to say that I think that we have no choice. The U.S. government has no choice, and global governments also have no choice but to actually implement it into their monetary policy. So, but Bitcoin Reserve we're going to see, and I also think we're going to see some of the U.S. debt repaid with Bitcoin. We were very fortunate to attend like a conference last week with where the now nominated Commerce Secretary literally spoke about that before he was nominated and suggested that one of the primary policy ideas in the new administration would be to actually repay the U.S. national debt with Bitcoin and to assert dominance over the BRICS movement, which is aiming to replace the U.S. dollar as the world's strategic reserve currency. They can basically reverse that trend by using large amounts of Bitcoin that they will hold and the U.S. dollar to essentially be the bank for other central banks that need crypto.
Okay. But, Cathy?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that's been said so far. I would just say politicians are savvy, right? A goal of a politician is to get elected and reelected. So the reason why you saw the success of why you're seeing a lot of cross-partisan, bipartisan legislation that is starting to move towards pro-crypto is because crypto money has moved into the political atmosphere. And essentially, as a country, your goal as a country is to generate taxable income. So because crypto is global and non-regional, the US is also trying to attract the right talent, developers, employers to move their businesses and to do business inside the United States. So I think having a pro-crypto administration will help to continue to keep talent in the United States because essentially capital goes where innovation goes. And so if the US were to turn its back towards a very burgeoning and like wealth creating asset class, then they're going to lose out on their income, which is taxable, which are the taxes of the people that are employed, in that country. And so that move was inevitable, I think, and natural. And so you're going to see more and more bipartisan political acceptance of blockchain. And the thing about crypto is because it's had such negative news headlines and sensationalized news headlines, it's been portrayed as like a bad act, right? As a dirty word, as it's Silk Road, it's anonymous, dark dealings on the dark web. But a lot of what people are being educated in now and seeing now is the potential to, like we said, change paradigms in terms of how business is transacted and how funds are raised. So people are starting to become more educated and opening their mind to the potential and the income that the United States can derive from welcoming crypto within its legislative framework.
Okay. Many people think that, for example, the crypto industry is a spontaneous activity, and nobody knows who created, for example, Bitcoin. No, and I think or many people in the industry, libertarian people, think that the best regulation is no regulation. Are you agree with this?
I don't think anyone thinks that though. I don't think anyone thinks that because one of the problems with that is we are all participants, not just leaders or owners. Actually, there is no real owner, in the system of digital finance. It's not like the traditional, system of value storage and value transfer, which is like central banking. In central banking, you have member banks of the central banks that are actually owners. And so their interests are not aligned with those of the users. In digital finance, all of the users we are all users, even us as businesses in the space. if we were to have no rules, we would be extremely exposed to the scammers ourselves. And what I was really moved by last week was I attended a crypto law conference run by the Florida State University, and something really a salient point was made in response to a question similar to yours, Sergio, which was a good response. It was that we are aiming to actually create a system of law that assists
new law.
a new system of laws that are way better to enforce and consistently enforce like judgments in the normal legal system, but that they can touch the crypto if it's necessary to like seize it or trace it or whatever. Like, for example, if you have custodians, these are like you and I go and we put our watches and jewelry in a safe deposit box at the bank. If that bank, for example, their employees steal it and they leave, they go to Madagascar, you and I can go to a court here in Mexico and we can ask a judge, and the judge will order the bank to pay us back. Now, the issue is if Mexico had no, let's say that that bank actually was a holding your crypto instead. If Mexico had no laws about how those companies operate, how would we get an order to get our money back? And we all need those laws. Now, of course, will it make it harder for some businesses? Will it make it a little more annoying? Sure, but imagine if we didn't have any stop signs or traffic lights. Even the bus companies that want to get there as fast as possible would be kind of mad.
So you are very when we are talking about this topic. For you, it's very important that the regulatory institutions.
Yes,
Institutional.
absolutely. I think what I said yesterday during our conversation, I think it is impossible to go from a fully centralized system to a fully decentralized system. We need something in between. And I think with a better, legal framework, we can actually, have the goal to become fully decentralized one day. And I think it's going to happen because it's just the purpose of the technologies, that we're using today or implementing today. But we need that in between because we still live in a fully centralized system.
All right, interesting. Other question I find very interesting. You suggest is we are very now in the investment cycle. It's too late. We still too early. It's many people think it's not the technology changed very quickly, and then many people is not is for example in the .com industry in 2000 companies who success they are not the first.
Yes.
No? Was for example Google, Facebook. They are not the first companies. No?
Yes.
I think they need time to learn about the environment, and I think it's more. Do you think that it's more the same idea now in the crypto industry?
I definitely think that, and I love that you bring this up because people think, oh, it's too late, because I didn't buy Bitcoin with the dollar, and it is still early. Like the fact that Bitcoin is not $1 million per coin is indicative, right? Like you should not. Oh, I don't have $99,000 to buy the full Bitcoin. You don't have to own a full Bitcoin. Just I was talking to someone yesterday. It's like, oh, I think with Iñaki, it's like just put your petty cash, right? Like you will spend $7 at a Starbucks coffee every morning. Instead of like buying the Starbucks coffee, buy $7 every day of crypto. It will add up, and one day that's going to multiply. So it's definitely still early. You are correct. The technology is still developing. I think in a way it's like it's not fair, right? I feel like for Ethereum, at least in this case, right? I think like what Ethereum did was very innovative and very brave to create another layer one, after someone created Bitcoin. Bitcoin again as a full stack of code and architecture, like a technical level, is like perfect. It's so well done, right? So Ethereum has a lot of layers and patches, of code that is not that perfect. That's why they have to release the Ethereum 2.0, and probably they're going to be a 3.0 as well, moving forward. But like you said, it's very important, right? There are new blockchains, there are new layer ones that are learning from the mistakes and the success of others, right? So we're going to see a lot of companies in blockchain, and now with the intersection of AI, they're going to scale much more faster in a much more efficient way. So I think it's very early. This is the first time in humanity that we're using a digital currency. So just let that sink in. Like the Industrial Revolution took 100 years, right? Computer science was just a concept was invented or created in 1953. Hasn't been that long. This technology is advancing so fast. So definitely like participate. It's not too late. Yes, educate yourself, but don't feel FOMO, right? Don't feel like, oh, I'm missing out. No, I'm too late. I'm not going to do that. Like start learning, at your own pace. We still have like years to go ahead of us. Yes, it's going to be very accelerated. I think so because of the technology that we're using. But many companies that don't exist today, many blockchains that they don't exist today, they're going to become the biggest and the most powerful blockchains. I do think that Bitcoin is here to stay just by design. Whoever created again, like they were geniuses, like at the stack of code is like really, really good. But we're going to see others that they don't exist yet.
I think, I don't know, is that this time is probably different because the value, many people think that if I would buy Bitcoin 10 years ago, we are rich now, no? Because in the 15 years ago, the value of the Bitcoin, it's a pizza, no? And now it's very expensive, no? And many people think that the opportunity to invest in crypto is disappear now. No,
yeah. But in those 10 years, you could have lost your keys, had the money on FTX, maybe had the money with Celsius, staked the money at, maybe you lent the money to someone at 3 Hour Capital, maybe you were bought like bag of peanuts on Ross Ulbricht's the Silk Road's website, and then the FBI seized your money. Maybe you lost your wallet. 10 years is a long time. Now, normal people that don't have to be, because 10 years ago, if you bought Bitcoin, you probably lived in a cabin in Montana. I'm joking, but you know what I mean. Like there's a certain like demographic that was driving the movement, and they've been very successful, and they're very brilliant, probably brilliant in terms of book smarts, because they were able to design a system technologically that has stood at least somewhat of a test of time. And the system by which Bitcoin operates relies on consensus, and so imagine that it very well could have been hijacked, but by bad actors. If bad actors were controlling most of the validation nodes, and those are servers, everything could have gone wrong, and it didn't. So obviously the system was well designed, but it still needed this period of time to get to a point where now we have like a lot of companies and a lot of different even communities, just like nonprofit communities that have matured it to a point where you have like you as a normal person can trust that when you open an account on Coinbase or you use a hardware wallet, that it's not going to like self-combust and like destroy your life savings. So yeah.
So I think when people think I'm too late to something, they're saying there's no more value to be made. There's no more value to be extracted from the rock. It's already been done. It hasn't already been done. We're very much just beginning. Do you know why? Because, raise your hand if you have a Coinbase wallet outside of us. No one. You're still early because, okay, so one, right? So one out of the entire group of people that is here.
We know who to kidnap.
Yes, exactly. We're coming for you. So yeah, one person, right? And for a lot of,
one Bitcoin.
Oh, there you go. Well, now we're going to kidnap you for sure. So we'll see you later. But yeah, exactly. So out of all the people here, everyone's heard of it. Very few people still have invested. Very few people have digital wallets. Now, of course, crypto is going to hopefully increase accessibility so that everyone can do it, but not everyone has. And by the way, most people can't go to their asset managers and purchase. It's only been very recently that the U.S. approved a Bitcoin ETF. right? Even though Bitcoin's been around for over a decade, and most people that know about it usually have some Bitcoin or some type of crypto in their asset. And by the way, people think crypto, they think Bitcoin, but that there are so many other coins. That's like saying when I think stocks, I only think Apple. I mean, that's incredibly crazy. There's so many other things out there, and if you do your research and if you invest with the right manager who can help guide you if you don't have the time, it can certainly still very much increase in value. I mean, I just saw, I'm on TikTok and social media. You see it all the time. Kids, they're 15, they're like, oh, I have $3,000. I don't care if I lose it. I don't care if I win it. I'm gonna put it all into this brand, put it all into Doge, put it all into Bond, put it all into whatever next meme coin, and they're millionaires. And they're like, oh my God, what just happened, right? And that's a complete possibility still, and will continue to be. So I would say until everyone's using stable coins for transactions, until your banks are openly giving you access to crypto, until everyone around you has digital wallets that they're exchanging assets with, until that happens, we're early because the technology hasn't proliferated to the rest of the world. Like if you think about, crypto is very splashy because of the personalities of people that are investing and the news, but most people, most average citizens of the world are not in crypto. They don't own those assets. They're not familiar with the technology, which is why when you're learning about now, get curious, understand a little bit more, play around with it, right? Then you'll come to understand what are the pain within the endemic within DeFi, why this, why one, why another, and then it's almost like an experiment that you can continue to do. And like Paola said, you don't have to start with $100,000, $1 million. That's what makes crypto accessible. Because when you're investing in real estate assets, you need a pool of capital to do that. When you want access to a private equity fund or a venture capital fund, you can't do that as an average citizen. You can't do that as a 15-year-old person. You can't. You don't have access. You don't need access. You don't need those permissions. There's no barriers to your entry outside of just learning more about the asset. And you can do that on YouTube. You can do that by talking to someone. You can do that by asking your friend that's in the audience that has Bitcoin, how he did it. So there you go.
But if you do have $1 million, I know someone who would be a great steward of your money.
You don't need $1 million. Your friends and family, I'll give you a discount.
Last question is, yesterday we had a very interesting conversation about artificial intelligence. I know that you use this technology in the managing the funds, no? And how do you use this new technology in your industry?
I think this is more a question for Keeyan. We do have like liquid strategies, which are like quantitative funds. So we use algorithms to predict, how the market is going to behave, and we place trades based on those algorithms. So it's almost like automatically, it's just like the place to trade. They analyze, the data points of the market. What is very attractive today is like quantitative funds in the traditional finance world, they're almost like obsolete, right? Because now you have like really large, like $1 trillion funds like Citadel that have quantitative funds, but they have so much capital, so much power that they take over the market. But crypto, again, is a second chance. The same with hedge fund funds. Like all those strategies that were extremely successful in the 80s in traditional finance, we can see them being successful today in crypto because it is like finance 2.0 in a way, right? So quantitative funds that can be very, very successful, especially in the interaction of
Overall, I think people don't realize, but we've had a lot of, artificial intelligence in all sectors, like of finance, but also just like in the tech sector for many years, it's just probabilistic math. What we have now is ready-made models that don't require training on one company's specific data to be useful. That's like the big innovation. There's a little bit of a hype, surrounding the thing, but that's okay. That's with all new things. There's hype. Now, directly to answer the question directly, one of the uses that we had was we actually got all the data from the order book. So that's like basically the let's call it the Excel spreadsheet that has every trade, every buy, every sell is all in an order book. We got all the order books from all the different exchanges. So let's say like you have an exchange, he has an exchange. You could be Binance, you could be Coinbase, you could be Bybit, Kraken. There you go. And then imagine that we wanted to combine all of these. That would be pretty tedious to do oneself. But what you can use a machine learning model for is to just instruct it, hey, please create a synthetic order book as if these three were actually one exchange. So every trade that happens at on a time basis, like at 12, 12:01, 12:02, 12:03, like millions of trades for every minute, you have to now reorganize them and basically combine them when they're at the same timestamp into one row on your table. And this is something amazing that machine learning has enabled us to do that would have previously required a whole team, because machine learning basically can not only actually do a comparative analysis of three tables and then join the tables, like in the database administration sense, but it can also then update all of the other stats about those trades by basically applying probabilistic math and seeing what's the likely highest bid or lowest ask for that trade, given that they're all three together. And bid and ask is just the price that someone's willing to pay and price that someone's willing to sell. So we did that, and that gave us an edge because we were able to then, again, use another machine learning model when the client wanted to place a trade that's bigger than what's available in just one venue. Let's say Kraken is their primary exchange, and we had a client places an order for 5,000 Bitcoin. Then there's not 5,000 Bitcoin available at market price on Kraken. So the order needs to be split and also go to Coinbase. Well, how do you determine how much to place on Kraken and how much to place on Coinbase to get the best possible price? Usually what you would do is you'd batch your order, so you'll buy 1,000 at a time, but that exposes you to basically getting a different price than what you expected because it's going to be done over a minute instead of a second. Well, if you use a model that basically is relying on the joined order book, you can guess exactly how much needs to be placed with each and at what price, and give them a estimate before they place the trade. And what we ended up eventually doing is you can even give them a premium to pay to the broker that the broker will guarantee that price. So the broker now is relying on an estimate to actually be like, okay, I'll take the risk. 99% of the time, I'll win. The house wins, and they'll take $30 extra, let's say, for every $1 million of volume. And if the final executed price is outside of that, they will pay the difference. And if it's inside, then the client is happy, plus the broker gets $30. So these are just two very simple applications. They are a little bit technically complex, but they have made it much safer, for smaller funds and smaller market makers, another type of fund, to participate. Previously, these types of things were only available to large enterprise hedge funds that had the staff to do all these manual calculations and write computer programs that were proprietary. Now, even funds that just have a budget of $30,000, $40,000 a year, they can buy these really nifty enterprise AI tools, adopt them a little to their particular use case, and compete with the big boys. It's a big equalizer.
Interesting. Do you think that AI will disappear or continue to disappear the traditional jobs of the traditional brokers, traditional managers. I think we talk about these topics in in other industry, in the films industry, and it's changing. I think many employments are disappeared with
Sure. I
now, and I think in this industry too, is it the same idea, or it's different? Or what is
You talking about it within crypto or within traditional finance?
in crypto in general? No?
I think,
Crypto area.
yeah, I mean, the whole underlying thing with crypto, from a technology standpoint, is it's trying to make things faster, cheaper, and more seamless, right? I think with traditional finance, it certainly is a threat. Crypto is a threat, and I think AI is a threat to a lot of existing processes that are cumbersome, right? That require, but I think at the end of the day, it still requires human input, and it still requires like human discernment to judge and judgment. And the end user are other humans. So I think there are circumstances where AI can certainly enhance the capabilities, like Keeyan was talking about, of crypto and what crypto can do. So that obviously there's wealth creation, there's job creation. So there's new employment that's created with the emergence of crypto. We've definitely hear stories of new millionaires, even billionaires created with crypto, because if something's new and someone's experimenting with it, then hopefully they're doing it for monetary gain. They're doing it obviously for also intellectual curiosity. That's the same thing with AI. I actually think, Paola and I would talk about this, AI has the capability to uplift a lot of people from what they're doing now, because a lot of, like I said, access to capital wealth creation is very much gated, and it's gated by who you know, it's gated by how much you already have. AI has the possibility for you to learn and get up to date faster, and for you to even become an entrepreneur. Like Keeyan, you no longer have to go through a lot of the cumbersome processes. Like if I want to start a business today, I don't know anyone that has, I can watch a YouTube video, but if I don't even have time for that, I can ask chat, I can ask Claude, how do I start a business doing this? What is the current addressable market? Who are my competitors? How do I tackle these competitors? What is the competitor doing? And if I have these skill sets, what is the best way to approach this market? Done. Not in hours, not in days, minutes. And they give you an answer, and that is an amazing starting point, right? So it enables you, someone that has an idea that previously had no experience, had no accessibility, to learn and get up to speed very, very quickly. And if I don't know where the tools are, chat, Google will tell me, hey, if you need to do a business, you should use these tools. And there are all kinds of, there are tools, chat and Claude and, all the other new AI tools are out there. They will build a website for you. You no longer even need to know how to code. That, again, also removes another barrier. So yes, will it destroy businesses that are just making really terrible websites? Sure, it will. But if you want like a nice website, wants them to fix your website, that guy is still going to be there, right? So it just it's asking other people to enhance their skill set, and that you have to. And then also, I think that it actually has the potential to create more opportunity to uplift people if they are willing to spend the time to learn about these new toolkits.
I have a funny admission to make, Sergio, Cathy. I should be the one that uses AI the most. I literally never use ChatGPT or Copilot. I don't even have it on my phone. I'm like still a Stack Overflow guy. Stack Overflow?
No,
Yeah.
no.
There are coding tools now that will just help you troubleshoot and code with it.
I used to code. I just code myself, but I just still code myself if I have to code something. But I should probably use it. But this is the admission. Yesterday, Cathy taught me for the first time ever how to create AI art, AI stickers, and AI art.
Sticker.
Yeah, yeah. I was very excited. I was sending everyone stickers. But can I ask something? I have a question for you and for Paola. Is because you guys were probably in the generation that Google became Google when you were like younger and just in your beginning of your professional careers. like people were Googling a lot to the things, the queries that now people are asking ChatGPT. Are you worried about, like Paolo, like what happens to the source material that then the models use? Like if no one's going on forums, what, like, is that something you're worried about in your business?
I don't, because once again, even I barely use Google, right? I mean, again, these are like search tools, but they're not here to like solve your life, right? So the same with like ChatGPT and like Venice and all these like open source, like AI programs. If you really dig into it, you start realizing that they're just repeating the same information over and over again, right? Like they can make your life easier and accelerate the processes, like Cathy says, but it's not like a ready to go information, right? Like I'm a writer. I publish a lot of content. Like people are like, why don't you just use ChatGPT, or Venice? I'm like, no. I mean, if I literally just delegate 100% like my writing to one of these tools, like you can tell right away. I can tell right away who is using ChatGPT and who's not using ChatGPT. So again, I think it's just a tool, and it's totally fine that you don't use it, but I don't think we are there yet. And by the way, I don't think we will ever be there. Like I know it's like, I love your presentation yesterday with the films, right? And the last image you presented is like so good, it's so well done. But there's still like an element of humanity, like that we don't. It's very hard to explain, but it's still there, and it's always going to be present, because being human is very unique and very different. And as I said yesterday, our brain is the most amazing muscle, right, in the world, right? So we cannot replicate that yet, and I think it's going to take like, I don't know, maybe 1,000 years for us to get there. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, sorry for asking it. I just knew that Paula would because of her like writing, that she would know, like, because I worry about that, you know.
Again, I don't think so. And again, with Google, right? These are just tools, as I said, to free our time as humans to become a better human, to occupy our minds and our time in better things. Like, let's create together. Let's go back to our childhood. I know it sounds like corny, right? But I always default to that. It's like what your heart truly desires when you were a child, that's who you really are. And we lost that, in the process of becoming an adult, and then like getting into greed, like now with crypto. It's like one of the things I will say is that I think intention really matters, and you nailed it yesterday what you said, right? I love what you said, and you said the process of creation shouldn't have the goal to be better or successful at something. It should be just the creation process of like creating something, of being curious, of doing something that you love and you really desire. I feel like with crypto is the same, at least for me. It's like I'm not here. Yes, of course, I have a fiduciary responsibility with my investors of creating alpha and good returns. But why am I in the industries? Because I actually believe it can impact the world in a positive way. If I do my job well in terms of like picking the founders that I know they're creating real value in the world with blockchain and AI, I'm going to make money. I know that. I'm confident about that because I'm picking the best projects that are going to be long lasting impact for the world. I'm not here to just invest in like meme coins. A lot of funds do this, by the way. There are a lot of token funds, right? All they do is just like they buy and sell tokens all the time and they make a lot of money. I don't believe in that, right? There's something more and something else, besides just being greedy and making money. That's my opinion.
I think it's an amazing tool, no, that everybody use, and if you don't use your competence, your or the industry use, you need to have an advantage, no? And I think you need to use it's exactly the same like Google, no? Google. I think it's not to the same idea. Obviously, they are very important evolution, but it's yeah, many people didn't go to library, for example. No, yeah, the traditional research is yeah, it's, don't exist. No, it's you need. I think it's you need to use this in all the areas. AI, I think it's a very important tool. No, okay. If you have some questions, thank you. I think we have a very good conversation. we have time to some questions. No, but quickly.
Thank you for the panel, for this conversation. It was very interesting, and I found out about many concepts I didn't know about. I had one question about what's the main barrier if you want to create a token? Like, what's the
There's no
It's-
barrier.
So easy.
there's no barrier.
It's so easy. Ask Sergio, he has 11 tokens.
Yeah.
There's no barrier.
That's
Created
the
by
beauty
you,
of it.
created by
Yes,
you.
yes.
But
It's
there's
so
one-
easy.
But there's one thing I will.
Yeah, there should be one thing because
No.
if not, everybody
Okay.
would have.
Creating a token is one thing. Having
The token like
be used is another, because so when you create a token, if you want to have that token used, you'll get the smart contract, which is basically just so think of smart contract is like a program. It's a computer program, really. That's what it is. It's just a software. You want to get those audited by trustworthy external auditors, just like the books of a company are audited if the company goes public. It's literally the same concept. So if you have a public company and you're offering your stock now to like everyone outside, like random people that you don't know and they don't know you, you'll provide them with like audited financial statements by a public accountant. That public accountant is liable to society, through insurance or professional certifications, or even like a legal responsibility to basically like if people are defrauded to reimburse them. So the same thing exists for tokens, where the smart contracts can be audited, and in some cases, in some jurisdictions already must be audited by law to be offered on a public exchange, a regulated public exchange. And this is the case like in Canada, although it's not all over Canada. Like one of the provinces basically says that if you're making a token offering to the public, the smart contract needs to be audited by at least two qualified public auditors. And they have joined the category with the qualified public auditors for GAAP, like the accounting principles. So the big CPA firms are now offering the service. That is a barrier because each one is maybe 200, 300K, I think, like an audit. I don't know. I've tried. It's expensive. It's not that expensive. Never mind.
I mean, it really depends on what you're utilizing the token for. Anyone can create a token. It's almost like I want to create a name. You can do it very easily. Pump.fun, for example. People are making crazy tokens all the time. Meme coin. That's why they call it meme coins. Meme coins really just a token without anything intrinsically tied to the value. The meme is really the social attention that the coin has. So let's say my favorite example of a meme coin is Mudang. I don't know, it's like the baby hippo. Oh my God, it's the cutest thing. People were very excited about the baby hippo. So its name was Mudang. And so someone on Pump.fun created Mudang. And then because everyone was paying attention to Mudang, they're like, we want Mudang, the token. And you buy into it because that's where your social attention, that's where people are paying attention. And, crypto, because it's still very nascent, is run by very childlike sometimes in its behavior. So people are speculating. They're like, well, everyone loves Mudang, so everyone should purchase Mudang almost as a fan of Mudang, purchasing it, increasing the value. So from that perspective, that's also a token that has no intrinsic value. You're not really trying to do anything from it, right? Outside of just making a quick buck, to be honest. The other end of it is if you're looking for a token to bootstrap a network, then you have to focus on things like getting the code and getting the right funding, getting the right people that you want to attract to your project. And also you have to think about a concept called token economics, which is making sure that the people that are mining your token and then versus the people that are buying your token versus the people that are spending your token for some type of utilization in the project that you're working on. So there are, we can go deeper, certainly we don't have time, but that can also be a barrier in terms of what you want the token to do. But just token creation, if you're like, today I want to launch Cathy token because I'm amazing, and after you guys hear it, I want you guys to buy the token, I can do it right now. WooCoin, Woohoo Coin, yeah, Wudang,